Hey guys, this is Angel. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really enjoy reading manuals, so that's why today's topic is how to P24. We'll go over the main features, how to use it, how to set it up, and get up and running in a couple of minutes. So we're focusing today on what happens on the P24. We're gonna assume that your engineer is taking good care of you and already set up everything that happens between the console and the hub. So over this connection right here, the Stage Connect client, you're gonna receive 24 channels, TalkBack, and remote power. And over the same connection, you're gonna send back TalkBack and your stereo mix. So next is your monitoring. And you've got three options. First, you can either connect your headphones directly to the headphone output on the P24. Second, if you have a wedge on stage, you can use the dedicated output on the P24 as well. Or if you're using wireless transmitters, it's probably best to use the analog outputs on the P24 hub. And that way your engineer can have the hub and the transmitters in a single rack. So now the P24 is connected to the hub, and let's go over how to set it up in 30 seconds. Running? Okay, to edit a channel, press the button. If you press another button, you select that other channel. Press the same button again to unselect the channels. If no channel is selected, then you're in the main mix layer. Each channel has two layers. The first layer you see when pressing a button is a performance layer. And that layer has all the parameters you care about, like the balance, or tone, or effects send on and off. The second layer has the settings your engineer cares about. You access that by holding down the button, and that has the stereo mode and the name. Okay, so it's called P24, but you've got 13 faders. How does that work? You've got 24 stereo signals organized in 12 stereo groups, plus a dedicated channel for TalkBack and the auxiliary input. Each group can be either mono, stereo, or dual mono. And if you want to set it up manually, you just go into the channel settings layer and then select either stereo, mono, or dual. But if your engineer is taking good care of you, they'll set up the channels in the console in such a way that the P24 is gonna automatically set each channel up in the stereo, dual, or mono mode depending on the channel names. Let's take a listen. The stereo mode is going to be useful for overheads or any other source where you want both channels to be controlled by a single fader. And then you can still, of course, pan to the left and right. Mono mode is going to be useful for a bass, for example. You still have panning control. And then the dual mono mode is really useful for stuff like the kick drum. Here we have two microphones for the kick drum, and the pan pot is going to act as a balance for both mics, the kick in and the kick out, but they're both going to be panned to the center. So if I pan to the left, I'm only going to hear the kick in mic, and then if I go the other way, I'm only going to hear the kick out. So that way you can balance the mics. We're doing the same with the snare top and bottom. It's also in dual mono mode. Now we only hear the snare top, and now only the snare bottom. But it always remains panned center. Make sure that remote is enabled on the P24 so that it can receive the names from the console and set up the channels automatically. To do so, while in the main mix, hold down this knob and then navigate to the remote option. And once you get there, just turn the knob to the on position and it's gonna be set up automatically. So let's do our monitoring mix. They say the key to a good mix is getting the levels right. So let's dial in all the instruments and make sure that the blend in the dual mode channels is exactly as we want it to be. When a channel is selected, you're gonna see that channel levels on the output volume meter. And when no channel is selected, you're gonna see the main mix level. So first I'm gonna control the blend of both mics for the kick drum. And I'm gonna do the same for the snare. That's just the bottom and the top. Okay, let's bring in some overheads. On channel 5, in dual mode, I have a combination of the hi-hat and the room mic. So that's just the hi-hat. That's just the room mic. We want a little bit more of the room mic because we already have the hi-hat in the overheads. Channel 4 are both toms, which are not playing right now. And let's go to the bass. So that's a starting point. Each channel has a tilt EQ for easy tone adjustment, so let's play around with it a little bit. A little bit on the snare. That's making it darker. A little bit brighter. Let's make the guitars a little bit brighter. And even the bass, we can make it brighter or darker. I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner. There's also built-in reverb. You can either activate it from each channel performance layer, or my favorite way of doing it is going to the main mix, scrolling to reverb, and then you can control the overall effect return level, and you just press the buttons you want to send to the reverb. So let's send the guitars and the snare to it. That gives you a little bit of atmosphere and feeling to it. Let's move on to headphone correction. Different headphones can vary wildly. Some might be too heavy on the bass, too dull, or maybe even too mid-rangey. Some might need more mid-range. And you can compensate for that with the P24. You have a tone control in the main mix and also a mid filter with a variable frequency and gain. So let's take a listen. If you go to the main mix, you can navigate to tone, and vary the main mix EQ there. And if you go to the main mix settings, you can then navigate to the mid filter, in which you have a gain parameter and then a frequency parameter. That'll help you get a more natural sounding mix depending on the headphones or in-ears that you are using. By the way, the first parameter you see when in the main mix settings is the limiter threshold, and that'll protect your hearing from any sudden peaks. If we scroll all the way down, you're gonna see that the limiter is active whenever the top LED is red. Now let's move on to TalkBack. Because the P24 is not just a monitoring system, it's also a talkback system. You receive 2 channels on the P24 and you send 2 channels back for talkback. Well, that's something more for the engineer to check out on the P24 Hub video manual. So you've got an internal and an external mic, and you can toggle between both on the channel settings of the aux mic channel. What I like about the internal mic is that because it's stereo, you can also use it to feed a little bit of the stage ambience into your in-ear monitoring mix to make it sound a lot more natural, especially if the in-ears block out all of the surrounding from your mix. Both the selected mic and the auxiliary input can be heard at the same time. So you can use your aux in for click tracks, for example. And the level of both the aux in and the mic are controlled by the black fader. There's a trim control for the mic and the aux in the aux mic performance layer. Remember, this black fader will control the mic level on your mix. The incoming talkback level is controlled by the knob on the talkback volume section. And whenever you press the talk button, the other P24s connected to the hub will be able to hear you. So there you have it. First, you decide on whether you're going to connect your headphones directly to the P24 or if the engineer is going to take the signals out of the P24 hub. Then make sure that the channels are operating in the right mode, either stereo, mono, or dual mono. The easiest way to do it is by having them set automatically with the names coming from the console. Then adjust your mix to taste with the level controls, blend controls in the dual mono mode, tone controls, and the EQ in the main mix channel. You can also dial in some ambience with the onboard mics or add some reverb with the integrated processor. And to get a more natural sounding monitoring mix, you have reverb and onboard ambience mics. Happy mixing! Dual mono mode is the most interesting mode in my opinion. Nobody cares about it. Just for, I'm just gonna say there's a built-in reverb there. And that's it. Happy mix. That's it. Let's go. I don't know how to close. Wait, so there you have it. I already said that. Happy mixing. Some other closing, I don't know.